Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the 3 p.m. news on Canal de English. We begin with our top stories. Human rights group Amnesty International has called on the government of Cameroon to immediately launch investigation into alleged overuse of force during the anti-government protest in Bamenda. Figures from the National Cocoa and Coffee Board provides a cause for concern as it shows a disturbing decline since the launch of the cocoa season last August. And in sports, Cameroon gets 3 nominations at the GLOCAF Awards. Details will be yours in a minute. Various international and local human rights defense groups have been voicing concern at the ongoing spark of violence in the English-speaking parts of the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Among them is Amnesty International, which has called on the government to immediately open investigations into alleged overuse of force by security forces in Bamenda during the anti-government protests. This was on last December 8. However, at a news conference Sunday in Yaoundé, government spokesman Issa Chiroma Bakari simply ignored amnesty calls, as Divine Tariki tells us.
Amnesty International has called on Cameroonian authorities to urgently probe what it calls unnecessary use of force, which resulted in the killing of at least 2 protesters in the regional capital of the Northwest region, Bamenda, last December 8, citing eyewitness accounts indicating that security forces fired live ammunition and tear gas to disperse the stone-throwing rioters. The Global Rights Defense Group, in a statement issued Friday, says the use of force by security officers was excessive and unlawful. It has urged the government to immediately bring all law enforcement officers guilty of the unlawful use of force to book, warning that any further disproportionate retaliation by the security forces will only exacerbate the protests and trigger more bloodshed. Lawyers, teachers, and students in the country's English-speaking Northwest and Southwest regions have since late October engaged protests to decry the invasion of the zone by French-speaking magistrates and teachers. Progressively, the protests have attracted the masses who in their turn are denouncing the, quote, marginalization of Anglophones. The December 8 protests in Bamenda were intended to block the holding of a rally of the ruling CPDM party, which locals considered a provocation. Addressing pressmen and women at a news conference in Yaoundé Sunday, Communication Minister and government spokesperson Issa Chiroma Bakari ignored the Amnesty International urge, insinuating rather that the demonstrations are orchestrated by ill-intentioned individuals, and warned that all guilty of perpetrating the riots will be brought to book.
The Minister of Communication and Government spokesman Issa Chiroma Bakari at the weekend granted a press conference in Yaoundé on last crisis that rocked Bamenda, chief town of the Northwest region of Cameroon. And this excerpt has been put together for us by Tabby Clarkson.
CPDM militants were preparing to attend a meeting organized by the Mezam 1 CPDM section and presided over by the Secretary General of the said party in the presence of the Prime Minister, head of government. The Bamenda ceremonial ground, everything was in place for the harmonious conduct of the public meeting in Bamenda, duly authorized by the competent authorities, when some highly motivated individuals and acting by groups visibly prepared and perfectly organized started to carry out acts of protesterism an urban guerrilla to clearly obstruct the holding of this public meeting. In their destructive madness, these protesters, who had become real insurgents, began to erect barricades on roads in order to hinder traffic, burn many vehicles, burn tires on the road, siege and then burning public buildings, including schools and hospitals, taking hostages, students, patients, and medical personnel as and assaulting natural persons.
In more news on politics, the last National Executive Committee meeting of the Social Democratic Front Party held over the weekend in Bamenda, northwest region of Cameroon. The meeting had two main points on the agenda. Firstly, the present prevailing situation in the northwest and southwest regions. Secondly, the party's national convention built for the 28th to 30th of April 2017. The chairman of the Social Democratic Front Party, Nijun Fundi, during the NEC meeting expressed concerns over the killings in Bamenda and torture in Boya and other English-speaking towns in Cameroon. He says the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, should assume his responsibility. And in economy, the government of Cameroon wants to attain an annual production rate of cocoa, that is 600,000 tons by 2020. But fresh figures from the National Cocoa and Coffee Board provides a cause for alarm. The data rendered public over the weekend indicates that Cameroon's cocoa exports have witnessed a disturbing decline since the launch of the season last August. Tariq Divine with details.
The volume of cocoa sold on the international market by Cameroon has witnessed a drop. Figures rendered public at the weekend by the National Cocoa and Coffee Board indicate that the country's exports of the main chocolate input ingredient stands at 39,157 tons since the launch of the season last August. That's a 33% decline from the 58,868 tons exported during the same period last year. The National Cocoa and Coffee Board did not furnish reasons for the exports drop. The cocoa growing season in Cameroon runs from August to July, with the main crop harvest operated from October to February and a light reaping season stretching from April to July. The country's top exporters include Telka Cocoa Limited, with 18,860 tons sold between August and November, and Olamcam with 11,169 tons. The government is implementing various projects designed to step up production to 600,000 tons by 2020. Last year, Cameroon's total cocoa output reached a record 269,495 tons.
More than 1,300 teachers have received their end of training certificates that qualifies them for the job market. The teachers are graduates from the Higher Teachers Technical Training College in Douala. They have been called upon to be well-behaved and hardworking, as Crystal Katala tells us.
These teachers have just taken the commitment to be models during the rest of their lives for their students. There are 1,300 teachers for the technical education, for secondary and high schools, and 38 guardian counselors ready to transfer knowledge to young Cameroonians. I wish to thank the Almighty God who permitted me to achieve my studies. I promise to work actively as the representative of the minister said that we should concentrate on our book work, so to be good teachers in our country.
Comme je le souhaite et comme le veut mon pays, mon très cher beau pays, le Cameroun.
In the past, the Higher Technical Teacher Training College registered 300 students, but nowadays more than 4,000 students are enrolled, raising the problem of lack of infrastructure.
Notre challenge,
our wish is to be the best on the technical and technological aspects, so as to empower Cameroonians with competence that they need in the domain. That is why we continue to innovate without break in the school. We have diploma this year and we are going to train another batch. This year again we are coming up with 2 other innovations.
Nous voulons répondre à cette ambition d'émergence.
The rector of the University of Douala, while presiding over the graduation ceremony, instructed the graduates to be disciplined and hardworking.
Ardent a fait le travail pour lequel ils sont venus se former.
What we are asking them is to do what they have been assigned to do. And secondly, they should not forget to continue their training. If not, they are going to be a nuisance. A teacher that stops training is no more useful to share knowledge.
Les mêmes recommandations habituelles.
The teachers and educators who have as major task to train competent youth who will be courageous, competent and engaged.
In culture news, sons and daughters of the 14 clans that make up the poor community have been cautioned on the need to reconcile with one another if they want to continue the legacy of their ancestors. The Mpo Festival held this weekend under the theme Rebuilding the Foundation. Amber Gladys.
The Mpo community in Cameroon has once again renewed tradition this December 11, 2016 at the banks of the river Sanaga in Edea in the Sanaga Maritime Division. The sons and daughters of Lungopo, Minge Bat Milimbet, who make up the 14 clans of the Mpo community, came together to celebrate an age-old tradition. This association dates back to the 1940s. It was created within a particular context, consisting the history of Cameroon, with the events that took place at the time. Today, we have changed in terms of quality and quantity, and it is therefore necessary to adapt the organization to the new context. That is what constitutes the rebuilding of the organization. At the same time, we need to work harder to move forward with values like solidarity and fraternity. During a Thanksgiving Mass to mark the ceremony, Reverend Father Randan Toko cautioned the population of the Mpo community on the need to reconcile with one another for posterity. He acknowledged that it is an enormous task they must undertake to continue with the legacy of their ancestors. With government support and collaboration, the Mpo Cultural and Development Association is expected to be a traditional cradle worth emulating.
Sentiment renforcé que véritablement une nation se bâtit sur le socle de la cohésion, de la concorde sociale et d'un vivre ensemble harmonieux entre ces différentes composantes. Voilà une grande communauté dont les composantes sont éparpillées dans au moins 3 régions du Cameroun et dont les composantes entament...
Canoe race was one of the activities that stole the show at the festival, including the choreographic display from the various traditional dances.
The Archbishop of Yaoundé, His Grace Jean Baga, has launched work to extend the St. Peter's Parish of Kang Essos. This is in Yaoundé, and this was yesterday. Beatrice Gamo has details on the story. Straight away to sports news. Cameroon gets 3 nominations at the GLOCAF Awards in the categories of Female Player of the Year and Women's National Team of the Year. 2 of Cameroon's women's national team players who took part in the 10th edition of the African Women's Cup of Nations have given Africa the champion the highest representation of the category, Best Female Player of the Year. Midfielder Raisa Fojo, who scored the lone goal against Ghana that qualified Cameroon for the 2016 African Women's Cup Finals, is representing Cameroon in this category alongside the best player of the 2016 African Women's Cup of Nations, Cameroonian forward Abedi Ongene. In the category of the GLOCAF Best Female National Team of the Year, Cameroon is nominated with Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. The results of ongoing votes will be announced at a special gala night that will hold on the 5th of January 2017 in Nigeria. We now move out of the country, where the Gambia's Electoral Commission chief has warned President Yahya Jammeh that his bid to overthrow the election results will not change the fact that he lost. Mr. Jammeh, who had accepted defeat and promised to retire to farming, later on said he would challenge his defeat in the Supreme Court. He says the polls were allegedly marred by irregularities. The coalition led by Gambia's President-elect Adama Barrow has called on Yahya Jammeh to step down immediately and hand over power. He is being urged to accept his rule has come to an end. Meanwhile, ECOWAS, the West Africa's regional bloc, has described Jammeh's behavior as shameful and that it could plunge Gambia into violence. Still on the disturbing political situation in the Gambia, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari and other West African leaders will travel to Gambia tomorrow to see if there can be an end to the political crisis as the authoritarian ruler refuses to accept defeat. It is on this that we round it off for this edition of the news, 3 p.m. on Canal D English. Programs continue. Have a nice day.